Hello and welcome to another lovely day here in beautiful Nova Scotia, and welcome to my channel, The Optimistic Gardener. My name is Steve Farley. Well, as I said, a beautiful still day here in Nova Scotia. Autumn, so I'm in my autumn stroke winter rig now, gone with the shorts and t-shirts, etc. Getting a bit nippy here now. Most of the trees have shed their leaves, and I'm busy raking all those leaves up at the moment, but I'm taking a bit of a break because I'm going to redesign this part of my raised bed area, my kitchen garden. Well, I'd like to make it like more of a kitchen garden. So I'm about to rip all of this lot up and create my very own kitchen garden. This bed that I'm standing in is a big, massive bed. Was actually here when I first got here, and you know, it's too big. It's not actually high enough, and it's, like I said, it's too big, too wide. So you end up standing on it when you want to reach certain points, and it's just not exactly how I want it. And so the same with the rest of the area. I've sort of built it round it. So I thought it's about time I did a bit of a redesign. The wood's knocking on a bit, so you know, lots of factors, and a bit more experience, know what I'm doing now, leads me to thinking I need to do a new kitchen garden. So I thought I'd bring you along and show you a few of the different sort of things you need to think about when actually designing and deciding what sort of kitchen garden you want. What is a kitchen garden? And then bring you along with the whole actual build, because obviously I'll be building it over the next few months, and see what I come up with. So why don't you pull up a chair? Oh, hang on, you are sitting down. I'll pull up a chair and we'll have a little talk through the things that we need to think about when we're actually designing and thinking about building our kitchen garden. So what is a kitchen garden? Well, it's obviously a veg garden, and unlike your allotment or your veg patch at the back of your garden, it's often sited near the kitchen, near the house, so that you can get ready access to the different herbs and veg that you want to use. It will be in a defined sort of area. You know, it may have a fence around it or a nice wall. It'll often be made of raised beds. There's an aesthetic to it, if you know what I mean. It'll have defined boundaries, etc. And you don't always have to be just growing veg in there. There could be flowers. It could be somewhere you want to congregate. It could be like a table and chairs in there, where you know you have that ambience of having all the veg and the flowers around you, and you can eat, and etc. etc. And there are a few different things you need to be thinking about when you're actually designing the kitchen garden before you actually build it. Some important things as well, and I sort of like to break them down into 4 or 5 different titles, and within those titles we've got, you know, a few different questions I'd like to ask myself, or I'd like to ask a client if I'm designing a kitchen garden. And we're sort of what, or who, what, where, how much, and why. So who is going to actually be using the kitchen garden? If we're talking for accessibility, does that person who's using the kitchen garden have something that's going to stop them actually accessing the kitchen garden? Are they in a wheelchair? Are they partially sighted? Something like that. But either way, you know, does that person have a bad back? You know, maybe they don't want to be leaning down so much. So you have to think about a raised bed that is bigger, etc. Is there children going to be using it? Do we have to think about some sort of area for a special child-friendly growing area, something like that? But you just want to go through the questions of, you know, who is actually going to use it, who else also has access to it, and that who could be a wild who, i.e. are there deer around? Are there sort of other wild animals that could interfere with the actual kitchen garden? You know, deer are obviously one of the major nightmares, especially here. Out here, or sort of, it seems to be anywhere in Canada. It could be in the town, and there seem to be deer around. But also, I have those blackguardy raccoons that come around and annoy my kitchen garden. And one of the main reasons why I am redesigning this kitchen garden is so that I can build a fenced area where the blackguardy raccoons can't get at my corn. So I'm going to have to think about an overhead sort of restriction so that the raccoons can't get over the fence and in that way. So there's, you know, lots of different who's there. Now, where is obviously a massively important title within your designing of your raised bed area. So where do you want it? We want it as close to the house as possible, if possible. You need to think about where the sun is. So, you know, you want the sun on the south side of your kitchen garden, and you want, you know, this behind me here, behind this garden faces south, so the it's going east to west across here. But a schoolboy, and I don't mind admitting schoolboy errors, a schoolboy error I made with this greenhouse just behind me is that the tree line all the way across on the south side of my garden, at a certain time of year, just sort of mid to late September, the sun starts to dip below the tree line, and I don't get hardly any sun on this greenhouse after that throughout the day, because I designed it at the wrong time of year. So you have to think about that when you're actually designing your garden. Is the sun, you know, are you east to west? You want it facing south as much as is possible. So you want, instead here, where I want the long sides of any beds that I create, I want them facing south. You know, so as it comes across the actual kitchen garden, then whatever plants I have in there have a maximum of time. They want at least, so any veg, especially fruiting veg, really want at least 6 hours of sun a day. And obviously the longer you have sun, the better your fruiting veg will do. So that's a where. And again, there's another where, is where geographically are you? Now we're going to come to what you're going to grow or what you want to grow in a minute, but geographically where you are is going to determine quite a bit of what you can actually grow. You know, there's no point me trying to grow bananas or some of the other sort of real, growing loads and loads of melons here. I can grow melons, but I wouldn't want that as a sort of a main crop, because it doesn't get hot enough really to produce lots and lots, you know, and bananas I've got absolutely no chance. So where geographically is one of your sort of strategic things you have to think about of what you can grow. Most people can grow, you know, your normal, your root crops, tomatoes, peppers, etc. But I have a little bit of trickiness growing peppers here. They like it nice and hot, so I often have to grow mine in the greenhouse really. So again, that's thinking about where you are in the world will determine, and you know, the easiest way to do that is to go down the local farmers market and see what everybody else is growing. That will sort of really give you a good idea of what's possible to sort of grow in your kitchen garden. So that's the where to do, you know, where is the sun? Where are obstructions? So any obstructions to the sun, are they, and at different times of year as well. So are they, you know, where are they? Close, putting your kitchen garden as close to your house as possible if you want, you know, because a lot of people don't want to go walking all the way down the end of their garden to sort of tend their kitchen garden. They just want to walk out their flow and then have a little look around, have a little tend, maybe sit down and admire what they've been growing, etc.
So those are the different things on the where front. Now what? Now what is a really important, obviously. What do you want to grow? Now a good way of deciding that is obviously, what do you like eating? Think about, write down all the things you like to eat, and then take that list and prioritise that list. Because obviously you're not going to be able to grow all of the things that you want to eat. Again, it depends on the size of your garden. In the UK, definitely a lot of people's sort of back gardens are not big enough to grow lots and lots of stuff. So you've got to prioritise what you are going to grow. But you can, when we get to later on, we can think about growing upwards as well as sort of along and outwards. And that will help you grow different things, climbing things, etc. But what you want to grow is obviously going to determine the type of kitchen garden you develop. And what you want to grow is also going to determine how big your beds are, etc. So you can get away with a sort of 6-inch bed really, if all you want to grow is lettuce and leafy sort of things like kale, etc. Because they can handle that. And they don't need lots of sun either. They need a fair amount of sun, but you know, we're talking height now of the bed. So a good 6-inch bed really will do for any leafy crops. So if that's all you want to grow, well, crack on. You don't have to spend all that money out on a deeper bed, deeper wood, etc. If you want to grow tomatoes and things like that, you need really a good 14 inches at least to be able to grow good tomatoes and peppers and things like that. And really the same with root crops, carrots. Obviously they're nice and long if you get big uns, and you want a good size bed for that. You know, so again, really a good 1.5 foot for any sort of good root crops. So those are things you want to think about there. What food you like to eat. You know, some people will be growing veg that they don't really want to eat, but you know, that is the main driver of a kitchen garden, I think. Of, you know, what do you want to eat? What herbs do you want to add to your cooking? What veg you like to eat most? So think about that, and then that will determine one of the big determinants of how many beds you need, what size they are, etc.
So there's a what. What else is there? What are the beds going to be made of? Traditionally, it's wood, and a lot of people nowadays using cedar, but wood's expensive at the moment. You know, over the last few years with the pandemic and all the production lark, the wood has become unbelievably expensive. Now I sort of got round that a little bit. Whereas this bed just behind you here and the sort of my greenhouse here are made mostly of pallets.
If you ignore the siding that I've got, the cedar siding I've got, the rest of it is all made of pallets, which is obviously a lot cheaper than the same size bed if you had to buy all the wood. So you don't have to, you know, and I could have lined the outside of this with pallet slats if I'd have broken up more pallets. But I wanted sort of a nicer look than that. Although, you know, you can get pallets to look really good as it happens. But, you know, like the point I'm trying to make is this size bed made of pallets, really cheap. You can go that way. So that's a good way of getting around it. Another way of a lot of people are using now is metal sort of beds. Those round metal beds. I don't know how much they are actually, but they could be becoming more competitive. Traditionally, I know that they would be more expensive than wood, but you know, with these prices at the moment, they could be becoming more competitive against wood. So, and they actually look good. Actually, I quite like the look of those. So that is some things to think about. I don't happen, you know, traditionally treated wood had the chemicals in it that is not good. You don't want those leaching into your food, etc. Nowadays the the chemicals that they treated the wood with, they've taken out. I happen to think they're a lot safer. So if you want to use treated wood, well, crack on, I say. It's a lot cheaper than cedar again, and it will last a long time. Who's going to actually, going back to the who's going to build it? Is it you? Are you any good with woodwork? It's not actually that difficult. You know, there's a video there, and I'll mention the video about my building a pallet sort of raised bed. That's up there at some point. They're not difficult to build, but you know, thinking about again who is going to actually build the raised bed. For those of you who want to look out and don't want to build it yourself, go to I've got a good site for you to go to, gardenery.com, and not just in Canada, a lot more in America. It's an American site, and they have lots of kitchen garden consultants that will help you design your kitchen garden bed, build it, all that sort of stuff, everything to do with it. So go to that site, gardenery.com. That's a great site, lots of good resources on there, and people that can help you. But if you want to do it yourself, stick with me. I will help you as we go through this process over the next few videos. So we've done the who, we've done the what, we've done the where. Have we finished the what? So something I nearly forgot there at the end of the what, and what are your sort of, is your raised bed area going to be made of, is the paths. What sort, and that goes towards the sort of who's going to access it maybe. If somebody who's in a wheelchair, maybe they need some more sort of, they're obviously going to need some sort of more wheelchair friendly access. Does that mean they need sort of flagstones or something like that? Or maybe flagstones that are uneven won't be any good for somebody who is slightly infirm on their feet. When I did this, put stone chippings down, and I've since come to think that that is actually a bad idea. They looked good to start with, but they're a bit of a nightmare to maintain. You know, if they sort of disappear in your boots or etc., and you know, you have to buy more stone chippings if you want to maintain it. Weeds actually come up quite well through the stone chippings, even if you have that weed suppressing cloth underneath. They seem to come up underneath that. So I don't particularly like stone chippings. So what I'm going to do for my garden is these stone chippings that I've got are going to move over to my other side of raised bed area, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use wood chippings, because I've got a chipper and I've got lots of trees around me, and you know, and when they sort of run out or they start to get a bit low, I can always redo them for cheap. And as you can see there, oh, and here's a good thing, here's a good reason why you should always ask. There's a big pile of wood chippings, wood shavings there, and I was walking down the road and saw someone in there with a big wood chipper, and they're doing a load of work on someone's trees, and I thought, hang on, why not go and ask him? Ask them what they're doing with it. Oh no, we just take them down the dump. Can I have them please, sir? Yes you can, sir. So there we are, a free load of wood chippings, and more coming tomorrow, I believe. So anytime you see the old arborists, tree surgeons, whatever you want to call them, go and ask them. And you know, you're after wood chips, why don't you just go and ask them? You never know what they're going to do with them, and you can get all of that stuff for free. So that is a good reason on the what. You know, what are your paths going to be made of, and link that to who's got access to them, and you know, and the how much it's going to cost you to do all your paths. Just a little thought there. And the how much we've sort of dealt with the, you know, traditional treated wood is the cheapest. Now it's a lot. I think it's safe. You can make it out of pallets if you haven't got loads of money. You can look at wood. What about brick? A brick be a lot more permanent. It's got that aesthetics to it, hasn't it? Or even actually over there, a lot of my beds here are made of just rocks. That's a raised bed, and I can get quite a bit of height out of those rocks. So, you know, I've got those rocks all around my garden. And if you're in a rocky area like we are in Nova Scotia, you can make a raised bed out of rocks, etc. Nice and easy that way. So there's a few what's and how you actually make your raised bed. Now, what about why? Why do you want a kitchen garden? Relating back to the sort of what you want to eat, is it because you want to actually grow your own veg? Do you want to sort of cut down your shopping bill? That's you know, there's a lot to think about there, and in that way, that could sort of lead you to building more of a particular type of bed. Like I said, it could be higher. You may need lots of vertical if there are different reasons, different things you want to grow. That's the why. Do you want to why? Is it aesthetic? Do you fancy the look of a nice kitchen garden with, like I said, with a nice table and chairs in the middle maybe, and an archway with flowers around as well as the veg, and you can go out there in the summer months and pick off some tomatoes, just go around and get a nice salad and eat that straight there from your nice kitchen garden. You know, aesthetics, that could be lovely. It could that, and again, that's making you feel good, isn't it? Do you want a kitchen garden to make you feel good? Another experience. What about education? You might want to teach your children all about food. You know, a lot of us nowadays are losing touch with where our food comes from. And you know, and I've heard lots of the stories of kids not having no idea where different fruit and veg come from. So maybe you want that education point of view, so that you need to think about that when you're designing it. Maybe setting aside a particular bed for your children, and thinking about the things that you want to grow, or they might want to grow there. So there's a definite reason why. So we've got, you know, the food that you want to grow, maybe want to cut down on your shopping list, the aesthetics, the way it looks. You may want it to make you feel good. You might want to teach your children how to grow veg and all about veg. And what about when you grow, you might want to sort of be able to grow some veg, and then do you want to grow some extra veg to maybe give to friends and you know, relatives, friends, or give to charity? That may, you know, that again is that making you feel good, and then also helping other people. So lots of different things there for you to think about before you actually get down to growing and building your kitchen garden. And don't forget the flowers. Like I said, that aesthetics bit. Flowers are a very important part of a kitchen garden. Should be important part of any veg garden nowadays, because they're the things that are going to help to draw in the pollinators and the different insects, etc., whether they're good or bad. So lots of things to think about there. So this is video 1. In the next video, I'm going to be showing you, I'm going to measure up my space, which I think is about 33 foot long by 24 foot wide, and then I'm going to start doing a bit of a design work. I've got some software that I can use, but you know, and we'll go into that in the actual next video, but you can always do it on a piece of paper, can't you? So hopefully that gave you some ideas on the things you need to think about when you're designing your kitchen garden, and then that will get you going and thinking about over there. And this is a really good time to be doing that now. You know, everything else is sort of calming down in the garden, and you can be thinking about that and getting it ready for next spring. So there we go. Designing job's a good one.